think we have a really interesting topic today. For those of you who do not know Alicia, and if you're in the real estate industry, you really should. Alicia, great to see you. Thank you so much for finding time in your busy schedule to be able to join us today.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here. This is a really cool topic and one I'm super passionate about. So happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're probably one of the best people when we were talking about this topic, we thought about, because we work with folks across the United States and land and luxury, commercial, residential. And I was thinking who would be the best person to bring this topic to the forefront for real estate folks, and it was you. So I'm glad we could find a little bit of time on your calendar, but let me give a brief introduction to your background. It's quite impressive what you've done in real estate and all the things that you're involved with, Alicia. For those of you who are just getting to know Alicia, she's the founding partner of Launch CRE Network. It provides fully institutional experience for commercial real estate agents outside of an institutional brokerage. So it's a really, really good resource for you, the independents out there. He's also the division leader and for education and training for Keller Williams Commercial, and is in charge of developing Keller Williams 2,400 commercial agents and coordinating with KW Commercial's various resources. He's the founder and developer and lead trainer at Nucleus Commercial, which teaches agents how to build and grow their real estate brokerage businesses. She's the head coach at MAPS Coaching. And on top of all of those other things that she does, for me, from a personal perspective, I think the most impressive thing about Alicia is what she does on top of all that professional stuff, what she does in her personal life as well. Alicia is a wife. She is a mother of 4 wonderful children, and believe this, she's the mother of triplet girls. So
I still have a hard time believing that same days. Some days I'm like, that's not real. It's real. It's real.
It's a real thing that really happens. I have 4 little girls, none of them triplets, no twins or anything. And me and my wife's head are just spinning. So, this webinar is about alternative data, different perspectives of real estate. But because of your coaching experience and the phenomenal resource you are with real estate and just how much stuff you're doing, I do have some questions for you real quick before we get into that. And I don't like to use the word work-life balance because the folks that I know are very successful, I've never heard them use that term. They get their work done when it needs to be done, and they prioritize things the way it needs to be, right? And sometimes I absolutely prioritize my family, but my job and my family is to make money for the family, so I have to balance that as well. With you do so much as you go through your day, and you have so many different things to get done. What's a couple of the main variables for the folks on the call that might need to are trying to get more efficient, trying to get more organized? What do you do going through the day to constantly remind yourself to keep yourself out of the whirlwind and focus on what needs to be done? For the folks on the call, what advice would you give them? What 1 or 2 variables do you constantly think of throughout the day?
This is a great question. And it's one that I coach around probably 10 times a day because it's one all of us like and have, right? So there's this phrase work-life balance, and it's a lie because it makes us feel like our day must be balanced between all the things. I must feel balanced at all point in times. And the first thing we have to get clear is what is the goal of work-life balance? It's for us as the human, us as the entrepreneur, the worker, the doer, and as the person that has a life that's a spiritual being having a physical experience, to feel balanced. So once I get clear that the goal is actually for me to feel balanced, then I have to say, okay, well, what earns me that? What empowers me to find that? And it is not the word balance. It is the word strategy. It is the word standards. And so people who work with me can tell you, I practice what I preach. I except for Wednesdays, I start at 7:30 on Wednesdays. My work day starts at 8, Monday through Friday, except for Wednesdays, and it ends at 5. And that's it. And work stays between the lines. I earn the right to fit more in between those lines every time I invite leverage into my world, which means another talented human being or a tool, a technology, a resource. I get to play with that. I get to say yes to as much as I can fit inside that time window. But once I'm at 5 p.m., I mean, I literally wrap up my last call most days. Thank God for earbuds, because now we're not tethered to a desk quite as tightly. I'm walking to my car, I'm getting in because I'm going to pick up my son, and I'm going to go home, and I'm going to cook dinner with my kids, and we're going to play and living room dance party, and then get everyone down for bed, and then I'm going to spend time with my husband in the evening, and then I come back to work. And my husband and I run a lot of our companies together, launches a syndication of about 12 companies. So there's always work discussion inside our home, but it's not like working hours. That's when our brain is getting to process and be more in that visionary mode. The tactic to make it all fit, to have 12 companies and a coaching role and a leadership role baked into this 8 to 5 world, means that I have to invite leverage, and I have to be really intentional with my time. I have to time block consistently, and I have to live that time blocking, and I have to own that the way I use my time in those hours is wholeheartedly mine and nobody else's. If I choose to give control of it to somebody else, that was my fault. And
I like that.
when we get out of balance, it's because we're
Yeah.
giving someone else control of our time. Someone else's priority got on your calendar. The only things that live on my calendar are my priorities.
I like that. What you're laying out there is develop boundaries, appropriate boundaries based on the priority, and live to them, right?
That's
Be
right.
strict with those boundaries. I love that. So that's a little tidbit for a little extra for the folks that joined the topic, obviously, today. And Alicia, thank you so much for that. I can definitely see why you guys are just so successful in what you're doing with the coaching and all of that. But you're also a real estate professional, right? You know a heck of a lot about real estate, residential, commercial. You are involved with real estate deals across the United States, right?
Yeah.
So
specifically in commercial, I've never sold a house, not even my own.
okay.
I work exclusively in commercial. My specialization is actually in urban infill development, which means dirt deals, but in an urban setting. We typically, versus going wide, are going very high and very deep. And so I love that arena. And I love that data is our conversation topic today, because data was my superhuman power that let me go get really good at those deals, learning how to find data, how to organize it, how to master the usage of it in my priority that I was focused on. Yeah.
That's a perfect segue, because I actually had a question lined up for you later on. I'm going to show everybody, and I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen. But I was going to show some people, and the question I was going to ask you was, how critical data is in those types of transactions when you can look at a piece of property and you can see different pathways of potential revenue or highest and best use for that piece of property. Really, the driving force is, what data do you have available for you to help you make those decisions, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's so much of why I love your tool, because it took what, I mean, I'm dating myself. I've been doing this for 17 years now, right? And it took what used to take me months to culminate, because I had to go to different public data websites, go and bang on an assessor's desk, or go to the planning office, which in Los Angeles, my market I practice in, I have a lot of gray hair hiding under red hair dye because of that, right? Like you lose so much time hunting down what can I do with this dirt? What is the real story this dirt holds in its potential, in its boundaries, in its capabilities, or in the threats that it has inside of it? And when I start first with a piece of dirt, I'm having to figure out what is the narrative of it. And your tool just simplifies all of that, right? It brings 8, 9, 10 different data sources I would have had to go hunt down before, and puts them all in one spot so that I can immediately look at it. So the pre-development phase, or even when we're just deciding, is this the right patch of dirt that we're going to build something on, the data is critical, because if I buy the wrong plot, I can't execute the vision.
That's right.
That's a fatal mistake for a developer.
100%. And I think you nailed it at the very start. It's time, right?
Yeah.
The tool, for the folks on the call here, the tool that you're about to see, this is a web-based tool that we've developed. It has enormous amounts of data. It's a subscription. It's $10 a month. Everything that you see that we're going to do here is $10 a month. You get this nationwide. Okay, so property boundaries, ownership, all of the really specific parcel data, you get it nationwide. And let's look at some dirt, Alicia. So I'm in the module here. I think I'm just outside. I mean, you're part of the country. I think I'm just south of Fort Worth.
Awesome.
somewhere down here, right? So, you
Yeah.
know, if I'm a land developer, anybody here, I probably have a couple things in mind of why I'm buying this dirt. Or if I'm putting the hat on that I'm maybe the property owner, I'm likely thinking, okay, it's South Fort Worth. We're probably gonna subdivide it, put single family homes on it, blah, blah, blah. The top 2 or 3 land uses, right? And what's
Put on a
driving
third
money,
hat on that, by the way.
yeah,
I'm a real estate agent that needs to
there you go.
evaluate this dirt, right?
There you go, right?
I need
And
to determine the value of this dirt, and I could really mess that up if I miss something.
100%. And it's back to what you said. Your thought process and what you think could be highest and best use there is dependent on the data that's accessible for you to analyze that dirt. Right.
That's
And
right.
that's kind of what we do differently is we look at this dirt in completely different perspectives than most people normally do. So let's get into it. Let's take a look at this dirt. I'm going to click on it. And just as Alicia said, the first job for that real estate professional, and I do not care if they're residential, commercial, land and luxury, the topics that we're talking about today is blending across all of those. And it's mostly energy, natural resources, data centers, solar panels on roofs, all of these non-traditional alternative methods of making revenue on property, but the data's never been available. So that's what Alicia was saying here. Right away, I get a quick look at some value indexes of where there could be potential revenue on this property. The higher the score, this one's scoring a 79, the more likely that you can generate revenue. Energy storage, for the folks that don't know, that is storing electrons on a power grid into a huge battery. The landowner gets paid a heck of a lot of money to lease it out. And it's an energy deal, but it's coming from commercial land and luxury, those types of real estate agents. And what's really cool about this is it's backed up by the data. Let me go through some more of these indexes and then we'll actually look at the data. Here's something that a lot of the residential and commercial folks love are these are proprietary indexes that we have generated. We are a data company. We generate this data and these analytics. It'll tell you about oil and gas contamination, industrial contamination. So essentially your phase one.
So vital. Yeah, I know going
right?
into it if I'm going to get clobbered with a dirty phase one. I love this part.
Because, and Alicia, you've done so many commercial deals. At what point in the process, if I'm buying this piece of property, at what point in the process do I find out about phase one hazards? Am I under contract? Am I doing
Yeah.
Where's that at?
In most cases, you're already under contract. In some markets, like when the market's swinging up there, the seller says, buyer, you can pay for your phase one. Right now, we're a little bit of downward facing. So some sellers are providing the phase one. I'm anywhere in my first 30 days under contract. I probably already had to put down an earnest money deposit, which on large sites could be considerable, 6-figure down payments, right? Or deposits. And I'm 30 days in. I probably have already spent some pre-development costs too on what would I build here? And I've already put my team to work on research. So I could be considerably financially into this transaction before I get a report back like this that tells me, honey, you're not building anything here. Right.
That if you're sitting next to one of these, right?
Yeah.
One of these things where there's
don't want to do it.
Right. And that's the thing. So I've hired you as my buy side broker, right? And I entrust you. I don't have the time to do this, so I'm hiring you to do this. If I get to the point where time is money, right, and I've already put money down, which means I've passed on several other opportunities, right? We've said, okay, we're not going to go with those, even though they might have been higher up in the list. And I find this out, let's say 30, 60 days later, and it could possibly kill the deal. We push reset on the whole process, right?
Yeah, you and I are back to step one. And I mean, we probably spent 6 months getting under contract on that piece of dirt too. That's the part with development that's really rough. It takes a long time to get a buyer the confidence to say, okay, let's go. Because they know their costs are high. If I'm your buy side broker, I now can say, hold on, we're looking at 10 different sites. We're going to run this report on all 10 of those before we even put pen on paper. before we even like reach out to a listing agent. Gives me the ability as a representative of a developer or a buyer to bring absolutely high value information to the table. If I flip it on the list side, and let's say, because I typically was on the listing side, if I flip it on the list side and you come to me and say, Alicia, I want to sell my land, I say, great. Before we talk about value, let's look at a full understanding of what this dirt is. There may be some things that we can uncover that you didn't know. This report does it. Yeah, love that.
Yeah, and it could shift it either way, right? When you have data discovery, it's kind of like rolling the dice. You may find out that actually, when you bought this property, there was an underground storage tank right across the street. It was storing sulfuric acid. It had a big
Something
spill,
seeped, yeah.
and it's still in the ground, right? Or you might see, conversely, well, we thought this was a pretty industrial neighborhood. There's nothing here. There's no reported spills. There's no abandoned oil. There's nothing. We're actually in a very clean area relative to everything around us that you might from a sell side agent perspective, you may be using comps on things that without using this alternative data, you should have completely excluded, right?
Yeah. That's right.
So,
and I love that you have this parcel by parcel, because so many times it's not just my dirt that matters, it's those neighboring sites beside it too. And this makes it easy to do that legwork and that homework. It saves, for me as an agent, months of work where I'm not going to mess up that someone had the wrong deal. As a developer or as a landowner, it just gives me absolute transparency on like, what am I actually getting into or getting out of? Love that.
100%. And let's go through some of these. So this is kind of your phase one up front. We won't call it a phase one, but it has everything and some more data that most phase ones have.
Which, by the way, that phase one costs a couple grand.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like it's going to cost me a couple grand. It's going to take me some time. It's $10 a month. Great
you
tool.
get and you get it nationwide, and that's the power of I won't call it AI, but big data, very smart algorithms, and having folks that understand what needs to be done, delivering those products to you, where again, your time, how efficiently can it make you with transacting those deals? This section here, this electrical area, is something completely new to most everybody in real estate. And what we do, we have enormous amounts of data. Some of the world's largest energy companies on the planet, they use our data to drive their decision-making processes. You get the same benefit of that data. This index here is very interesting for everybody, residential, commercial. What it shows you is the risk of rolling blackouts for your specific area. This goes directly to the substation, the bus ties into the train, all of the stuff that you don't care about. You just want to know, is this good or bad for me, Alicia, in this area? This will tell you what's the chance of blackouts happening. What is the chance that your electricity costs are going to increase through time? And what's the chance that you can get more power to this site? If Alicia's looking at this dirt for, let's say, Toyota, and they want to put a manufacturing plant there, and they're going to need an enormous amount of power.
Yeah, I need to know that.
Now, you're going to need to know that, right? Now you see this may not be the best spot to put this, even though in their mind they wanted to be here for some other reason, because they didn't have this type of data up front, right? So I can see all of that stuff. Some environmental information there about the property. And then,
well, by the way, Craig, this is one of the things that I had the aha in our first conversation. Even though you're called LandGate, that when we look at this property, if there's improvements on it, there's an actual structure already there, you're telling me reporting on that information as well. So that way, like if that building already has a power draw to it, we're witnessing that. I think that's incredible. It's not just dirt that we're looking at.
It's not just dirt, because there's, again, like I said earlier on, there's so much more happening with stuff that's just not land and luxury, large land plots. You're going to see, and I'll pull up another example here where a parcel is almost fully developed, but using LandGate, you can get information, how much revenue can come from solar panels, how much carbon dioxide can be offset.
That is an amazing tool. That's an amazing tool. Yeah.
It's like having, and this is the way I summarize it, Alicia, it's like putting an electrical engineer environmental scientist and a geologist in your pocket to tell you, not to make you a geologist or an engineer, it's telling you this is something you need to be aware of. And if it's high value or high risk, it's going to show you why that is. And just at the end of the day, it teaches buyers and sellers and reps of the property about the property. So
That's
right
right.
away, I went ahead and broke the property down, how much amenities are within a mile and a half of the property. If there were trees on this property, it would actually break down the tree species, the age, the diameter of the trees, and then it gives us a nice understanding of the soil types, helps you understand if you can put homes on it, if you can put a tall structure, what kind of foundation you have there to build things. But yeah, let's go ahead and dig in a little bit. Let's go ahead and click on solar energy, just for instance. I can go ahead and it's going to immediately identify nearest substations, transmission line, solar farms, and identify for you what you can actually do with this property from a solar development perspective. And you saw all of the other types of resources there. It's not to make you a technical professional, it's to give you the information, right? You've got 23 acres, but if you're representing me, I'm the landowner, and I'm telling you, Alicia, there's going to be solar panels over the whole thing. That's what I want to do. You can come back and say, well, we can do that, Craig, but you probably only have about half of your property you can put solar panels on,
That's right.
because now you can provide for me here. Here's your flood zones, topography, and you can help me understand, giving me this data, number one, how valuable you are, Alicia, in my decision-making process, but you can help me understand how to best monetize the property.
That's right.
Maybe we don't make money on it. You take it to the market, and we are very knowledgeable about the listing that we create.
Well, and in this market that we're in right now, people want options. They don't want to just say, I'm going to buy it or I'm going to sell, right? If it's a hold strategy, which investors need at many times, which landowners need at many times, when we can look at it and say, okay, it doesn't make sense to sell the property right now, but let's hold it and let's look at the
Mhm.
potential of what we could do here in the meantime to generate a higher return for you, or to help you recapture maybe lost funds that you're losing because a tenant vacated. For office buildings right now, that is a massive conversation. They have like national vacancy higher than we've ever seen in the United States.
Yeah.
And to be able to come to them and say, this may not be the moment to sell, you may not run and go get new tenants, but I can help you find 2 or 3 new sources of income. Let's go talk about
Yeah.
those. I'm an advisor now versus just a realtor.
Agreed completely. Agreed. And that's, I don't come from the real estate industry. I teach a lot of real estate courses around renewable energy, traditional energy, environmental risks, things like that. And I don't call the folks in the room real estate agents, because it puts a connotation that the only thing you're doing, having a conversation with me, Alicia, is you're trying to get me to buy something or sell something.
That's right.
And there's so much more to the real estate profession. There's so much advisory that should be done. And now that you have access to all of this alternative data, it truly is an advisory. You're going to teach. Let's say this is a piece of property here. That's actually a Walmart store. Maybe you're representing this building and they're wanting to sell it, or who knows? Who knows a reason why you'd be representing this building? But you can actually provide to that building owner how many megawatts of solar panel can be generated on the rooftop, your annual production, very important metric, how many tons of carbon dioxide are going to be offset by that. And then the most important one, how much money can we make? Right? I
That's
own this
right.
building. Alicia, why are you talking to me about solar? How much money can I make on this?
Here's the potential. And by the way, is that number total or annual? That's annual.
That's annual. That's annual.
I mean, that's incredible. I add value right there. I just added to your bottom line, right?
That's right. That's absolutely right. By doing nothing, let's say I'm kind of settled even for the realtors and the real estate professionals on the call. I'm never going to get Walmart to sign up with me. I'm not going to get that deal. Yeah, you're not going to get them to sell their building, but you're building a relationship with them where you can provide service. Say, I do own this building, and whatever the Walmart store, whatever it is, Alicia is actually now going to be representing me because she's going to create a listing. I'm not selling the building. Alicia is going to go on LandGate. She's going to click this create listing button, and it's going to be Alicia's listing to go ahead and get solar offers to put solar panels up on that. Alicia doesn't need a Rolodex
That's
of,
amazing.
right?
I also
It
didn't need
opens
a
you
real
up.
estate license to hit that, right?
You do. So that's the thing. You have to be a licensed real estate. These are
Love that.
surface type transactions. You have to be a licensed real estate agent to earn commission on those types of deals, right?
I love it even more. Yeah.
There you go. You're my license. Now, since you brought that up, let's go ahead and flip it over to minerals. Okay, we're in Fort Worth. What's underneath this property? There's a big well pad over here. There's horizontal wells that are drilled underneath this property. There's a bunch more horizontal wells here. Nobody knows what's underneath the ground. Now, anybody can broker and buy and sell minerals. You don't need to be licensed. But the time where all of our energy came from subsurface minerals is changing very, very quickly. Now all of the power is revolving around solar, wind, battery storage. Battery storage, very good index score for this site. EV charging, let's go and just click on EV charging.
That one's a huge one. I mean, we did a Tesla
Yep.
lease just recently that was $1 million in value for a 3-year lease. That is incredible value to an owner.
Yep. So when I clicked on this site, what it did for me automatically loaded in where's my nearest exit ramp, where is my corridor, where is shopping centers, restaurants, places where people would be parking the car. And all of that gets factored into an overall score. How does it score with all of these variables built in? So just like you said, Alicia, if you want it, if your client asks you, well, how good is this for EV? All right, well, there's another 2 or 3 days of going and collecting all of this data, putting into a presentation. You don't need to anymore. It's all done. There's everything that you would need. There's your exclusion zones. And now that we're kind of at the end of everything here, I mentioned PowerPoints and time savings. When I was, I wouldn't say brokering deals, when we were out going buying energy deals, large energy deals, private equity VC groups, we spent most of our time putting together presentations. It was such an enormous waste of time. So what LandGate allows you to do is white label these reports. Let me show you how you get there. You click this export button, you customize the report, and you can include any of these resource types that you want. You can go ahead and upload your company logo, your personal picture, add your information, and boom, you're going to get this really cool report with your logo. It's your report.
Oh, look at that. You dropped me in. I love it.
There you are, right? This is your report. This is your report. It's not
What
mine.
a great tool to just embed right into my offering memorandum or my proposal that I'm giving the owner to win that offering memorandum, right? And we're excited to have you at our summit later this year to show our, like, specifically our members that we're getting a partnership with you on this, of like how this becomes a tool in their listing process and in their advisement process to build relationships, so that the day that owner wakes up and goes, man, I got to sell this piece, or I've decided I'm selling, your name is the only name they think of. This kind of value helps that happen.
Yeah, and what I like to stress is this is a tool. This is a tool. It does not replace any process within the, other than streamlining your upfront due diligence to try to win that listing, Alicia. All this does is embolden the real estate professional. It gives them more horsepower, more tools, and it makes them more needed now than ever, because here's all of these resources. That's really interesting. Thanks for telling me all of this, Alicia. Number one, you're a rock star. Let's make money. Take it to the market. Go do it. I'm still not going to do it myself. I'm not going to take this thing to the market. That's not what I do. Now you can take it to the market, but you've shown to me and you've proven to me, and that's why most real estate professionals that use LandGate, they use it strictly for this report to win listings, because you're educating me. Now this is a really cool portion about the dirt, the value. LandGate has a proprietary algorithm and data sources where we pull in and we will run a valuation of the dirt for every piece of property. Are we right? No, we're pretty darn close, but we know we're not exactly right. So we give it up to the land professionals, the real estate professionals, all of those folks, you can adjust these values as best you see fit. So if you think the high intensity developed acreage is higher than $122,000 an acre, you can do that. Say, no, it's actually $200,000 an acre. Push enter, and it automatically updates. So you're
Love this.
customizing. Yeah, you're customizing it, because if your name's on it and your picture's on it, you want to be
It's
comfortable with
yours.
these values as well. It's yours. It's your report. So there, everything gets transferred into the report. There's your property feature. Again, you're teaching this either buyer or seller about this piece of property, right?
Yeah.
Somebody wants to do something here. Okay, well, we know there's some wetlands through there. How much is actually covered in wetlands? Well, there you go. 13 acres is covered. And then here's your other amenity information. You have topography information. You've got trees. If there was a larger amount of trees, again, you'd see the species. There's
Well,
your
like
soil
I
type.
practice in California, where if there's an oak tree on it, you're in trouble. You're gonna have a hard time
Yep.
building around that because they're not letting you take it down.
Yep.
So I love that species portion.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, especially the land and luxury folks love it, because it's almost like you're doing a walkthrough of the tree stands or wherever the
Yeah.
future home site is without even seeing it. So I can be looking and finding out more about a property in South Carolina than I would by actually getting on a plane and probably going there. I'm getting
This
all
tells
of the
me
data
way
and information.
more. Yeah,
Way
even
more.
if I was like a
Absolutely.
flyover, I've had a couple pieces where it's like 1,000 acres. You know, we do get up in a small little plane and go fly over it to look
Yep.
at it and figure out the potential. This tells me more than that experience ever would. It's
It
amazing.
does. And this is kind of what I say to a lot of folks, is because we pull listings in, right? We pull Keller Williams commercial listings into the platform. A lot of other folks, Remax, a ton of other folks put syndicate listings onto the platform. If everybody knows the information, if everybody can see the pictures, if everybody can drive by and see the front door of the house, that is not valuable information because everybody knows it. The pieces of information that give you the upper or lower hand in any transaction is you understanding and knowing data that nobody else does.
That's right.
And
That's right.
this is one of the most comprehensive, I'd say it is the most comprehensive report that I've ever seen on a piece of property. Carbon credits, I mean, how much carbon can be sequestered in an offset, oil and gas. I mean, it'll tell you the different rock formations underneath the property, how much oil and gas is produced, what the bedrock is immediately underneath the property can be important for multiple different reasons. And then this one's a super big one. Here's your phase one. Here's your phase one report.
This is amazing. Yeah. Every
Yep.
time I look at this, I'm just floored at the amount of data that's in here.
It's pretty crazy to think about how quick we've been able to bring this data up front in your decision-making process. I mean, it's telling you, here's your closest Superfund site, there's your nearest abandoned well, here's a bunch of contamination sites. Maybe it impacts the transaction, maybe it doesn't. It's additional information that's typically not being presented in either the buy or the sell side of that transaction, especially in commercial, most certainly in residential. I don't know, and I know you're mostly commercial, but every residential agent that I've showed this to, their jaws just hit the ground because there is no phase one for a residential property, right? There's
No.
I haven't even heard of that happening. Any of the properties I've bought, I've never done phase one.
Well, because I mean, it really matters for if we're going to redevelop on it, right? If there was something that was contaminated inside that, and then I need to go and build multifamily on top of it, or I want to build an office building there, or a medical facility there, that soil contamination is a very delicate conversation. It's really important. The other side that happens that I see about, we had a deal in Malibu that looked like a home run hit. It looks great, and then we brought a geologist out who did the report, and there was a landslide hiding underground. In areas where you have bedrock and things like that, the surface level can look great, but you don't know what's happening underground. That killed a deal. So again, they were tens of thousands of dollars into the investment of that exploration. $10 a month on here would have saved that process.
Yep. And that's the thing. You get to the phase where you need like a very, very in-depth phase one or even a phase two, you need boots on the ground, great. Still
Yeah.
do that
This is what
process.
I can do to make sure I'm not getting into a property that's going to surprise me once I'm there.
Yes, this is going to already save me rather than spending $3,000 or $4,000 hiring an independent geologist to do this stuff or an independent environmental scientist. I might be able to catch that stuff directly right up front. You're looking at a
That's right.
very, very wealthy neighborhood in California. I don't know how much these properties go for, but these black dots here, those are abandoned oil wells. Those are abandoned oil wells from probably anywhere from 1920 to 1950. I'm
I
willing
mean,
to
they're
bet
all over the coast. They're all over the coast in
all over the
California.
place.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not an issue whatsoever. Sometimes it can be a big issue, right?
Yeah.
I would like to know one way or another if I'm going to drop $2.5, $3 million on this nice corner lot here. I'd at least like to know if there's an abandoned oil well underneath the property. Again, it may impact the transaction, it may not, but I want to know. I certainly want to know
Oh,
that if I'm a
100%
buyer.
will. Yeah. In that market, it 100% will. Like if and I live in Texas these days, but I'm licensed and develop and practice in California. If I'm a California broker, I don't care if I'm selling houses, dirt, luxury, mobile home park, whatever I'm doing, commercial, I'm going to have this tool on my belt because the amount of time and energy I lose pursuing a deal that has a soils issue on it it can be substantial. And agents run into it all the time, all the time.
Yep. Yeah. And
I love that you've
go ahead.
done this great marriage, Craig, just to add this in. You've done this great marriage of risk reduction, right? I'm going to reduce my risk of going into a deal that's going to surprise me with a problem. You've married that with opportunity, risk reduction with the ability to go say, let's find additional revenue sources. Let's find the financial potential and opportunity in this that isn't visual and that we can actually go transact on right here in the same moment. That is a blend that I haven't seen any other tool do, and you guys do this really well.
Well, I
Bravo.
really appreciate it. We put ourselves in the shoes of when we were in our transaction days. What did we need to know right up front? Is this good or bad? Right? Does this add value to the property? And if it does, right? If this adds value to, let's look at this piece of property. If there's something here that's adding value and I'm not having to pay for it, well, that makes my good deal an actually even great deal. Now, if
That's right.
there's something,
Imagine if I could list that property and tell every buyer, here's how I defend my price. The comps may say I need to be softer,
yes,
but those comps couldn't go get you these 5 additional potential revenue sources.
you're exactly right. And then on the other side of that equation, Alicia, the risk side of things. I was just in Minneapolis speaking in front of the NAR Sustainability Summit. And these were 95% residential folks in the room. And I was sitting there thinking, like, how is this going to land with all these folks? And I talked about the risks. I talked about the risk indexes, and I pulled up some areas there that people wanted to look at. And these residential folks who had never really considered the phase one aspect of it start seeing all of these underground storage tanks and spills and stuff in the area. And this residential agent stood up and she was a bit flustered. She says, because I think she just looked up one of her listings and saw that it was in an area. She had no clue when she was getting the listing. So she's now set a price on information that she didn't have before. She says, what you're showing is going to lead to some properties being higher and lower value. And I said, exactly.
They were going to do that anyway.
It's going to happen anyway. As soon as the data becomes democratized, because there's price differentiation regardless, but it's all being driven based off of data. So if you have more data, and that's what I explained, is the more data that comes in, the more impacts of variables on the price differentiation that's going to happen. So that's a natural course of action. The people who have the data are going to be able to make better decisions on whether something is overpriced or underpriced. Because if you don't have that data, you're just kind of sitting back there guessing, right?
Well, I look at this too from an agent seat, right? Many times when we bring the conversation of risk to the table, what is the risk of this site? People get like, like we don't want to strip away value. We want
Yep.
everything to be right. So we get antsy and anxious. Breathe, it's going to be okay. What we have to acknowledge is our role is to be the highest and best fiduciary for whoever we represent. My job is not to make up a price and defend it blindly. My job is to get the highest and best available value for real estate for my seller, or to defend the snot out of the deal that I put my buyer into to guarantee that their money is being well spent. This data helps me do that. This data helps me show up and be the highest level fiduciary. And good, bad, or ugly, the value of the real estate is not my doing. It's not your doing. No agent creates the value. The real estate itself does. The more I can peel away the layers and be transparent in providing a number that is true and authentic, the more deals I'll put together, the more my clients will win, the more I'll be an advisor versus an agent. Because by the way, if I don't bring this to the table, the lender will. The lender will go do this research. They are going to do this homework. And if it's becoming available to us, you can bet that they have it, and you can bet that appraisers have it. They're going to uncover these things. I'd rather know up front.
Exactly. Save you time. So on the idea there where you were bringing the listing to the market, the better understanding you have, it's saving your time, because you don't want this deal to blow up in your face later down the road. And again, you can defend that price. If now your buyers come and they say, well, here's a comp, here's this one's just down the street, and you can pull up and say, well, here's why I didn't include that one, because that's got 2 abandoned oil and gas wells underneath it. And I didn't use that one across the street. And I didn't include that one because half of it's in a flood zone. Yeah, it hasn't flooded, but it's a 100-year flood zone, and there's a house in it because it was built before different regulations. I didn't use those comps because they're not comparisons to my property, right?
That's right.
But
Michael in the chat just made a great point. That's right.
Go ahead.
Michael in the chat brought up a great point. Most local governments publish versions of this data online. They're required to. So they put like their geosoil maps. The problem is I have to go hunt all of those down. I have to like click through all of their web menus to get them. And I lose days of time trying to figure out that puzzle in my market, and then trying to like algorithm in my brain all of it together really hard. You guys have done that.
Yeah,
this is such a like seamless, easy to access tool. And I can show my clients the information in a really beautiful format. As an investor, I love that.
Yes, absolutely. And that's, I think to Michael's question here, you can, and you nailed it. You can go find these different resources, some of these resources, these indexes, this is proprietary to us. These are going through our engineering calculations, our algorithms, and we provide these. We do have 2 data partners that use our data and information. We have Moody's. They are one of our data partners. They leverage this data for a lot of their transactions, things like that. CoreLogic, they are also one of our data partners. Absolutely love this stuff, because the parcels you are seeing here, that is the one piece of data that's not ours. It is CoreLogic data, CoreLogic ownership. You get that across the nation, nationwide, with the $10 a month. Just that alone, a lot of people subscribe just for that. But they leverage this data to enhance their own property data as well. So these proprietary metrics, they only come from LandGate, right? So again, it's the point
Can I test something really quick, Craig?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just drop in the chat, you guys. Just give us a yes if you're a real estate agent, because I just had an aha around this, and I think it's really exciting. So at least one. I got one that says
there's
yes.
one. We get Nikki. Yeah. Nikki's.
I bet we have a few others. It takes people a minute to be like, oh, she's talking to me. I'm going to right. Yeah. Can we go back to that screen that shows like all of the energy potential? If I'm a real estate agent and I'm meeting with Craig today, and I'm showing him his land, and I show him like the energy storage potential or the solar potential, and he goes, man, I'd love to take advantage of that. How do we get started? You know, do I need who could help me figure out like how to take out a lease for these? You know what, Craig, I actually can get that listed for you today. All we have to do is get through some paperwork other than agreeing on price and terms. What else would you need to know? And I can hit go on the button here and get that listed to start finding him that transaction for that storage component. This pays for itself.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
fee that I would take on that one activity that, by the way, I could do with everybody in my database, with every owner in my market that owned a piece of dirt that's in this platform, pays for itself. I also could go parcel by parcel and just call Craig. I've got a unique report about the energy efficiency and potential on your property where we could create passive revenue together. Would you be open to getting a cup of coffee with me if I can show you 3 ways that we can add revenue streams to your property in the next 30 days?
Yep. This is
Awesome.
so what you said there, instead of sending out a mailer, right? And everybody sends postcards. I mean, the real estate
I got
world
a
sends,
stack this thick on my desk. Like every time I
right?
buy a piece of real estate, I'm trying to hide my address because I don't want any more postcards. Yeah.
That's right. What what this platform does and what some folks utilize is that these mailers can be just sent out to addresses. So if you wanted to click around, find a nice piece of property, you can either print this thing off, send it yourself, or you can automatically send it through LandGate. If a landowner gets a map of their property with data, they're going to open it, they're going to look at it, and they're likely going to interact. They're probably going to have a question with it, and they're going to call you, right? I
Oh, I'm going to
hate the
make them meet
mailer.
with me to get coffee to get this.
There you go.
I'll only give
So
it to you. Get a cup of coffee with me, and we're going to go through it together.
you're a much better salesman than I am.
They got to get FaceTime because that's how I'm going to sell these additional lease opportunities, right? If I can start there and I already create revenue for them, the day they wake up and they need to sell this real estate or they need a loan refinance, which a commercial we can participate in, my name is going to be who comes because I already hooked them up with great revenue.
That's right. That's absolutely. So let's talk about that because I'm sure some folks are wondering, what does that look like for me? How do you make money off of it? It's the same as, and especially commercial folks, it's the same as any other lease type of agreement that you have. As soon as I start making money, you start making money on the deal. How the commission works with LandGate, there is none. There is no fee to create listings up on LandGate. So if Alicia wanted to list this property for me and I was a landowner, all she has to do is click the create listing button. The pin is going to go up on the website. Energy companies, EV charging companies, data centers, battery storage, some of the world's largest developers of those resources, they utilize LandGate every single day on the marketplace side. And they go ahead and they filter on property that where people have raised their hand, agents, brokers have raised their hand saying, we want offers for these different types of resources, and they reach out directly to you. So that's why I said earlier on, you don't need to have this huge Rolodex of, because that's typically the pushback we get, Alicia, is, well, this is great. I have some folks interested, but I don't know anybody in the data
I
center
don't know
space.
who would buy. Right. Right. But if your
Yep.
site's already doing it, there's the win for me. What's your success ratio? Do you guys know like how much connectivity is happening on those listings?
It depends on the same as anything else. It depends on the quality of the listing, Alicia.
Right.
So if
Right.
somebody puts they want a solar farm and they're 40 miles away from a transmission line and substation, which means their index score would be incredibly low,
Lower. Yeah.
they're probably not going to get a deal. Now, if their index score is very high, either for what's called commercial and industrial rooftop applications, or even behind the meter, smaller solar farms up to multi-thousand acre solar farms. If it's a good site, it moves. It moves right away. It's kind of in the landowner's space of whether they want to go through or their decision-making process of whether they want to go through with it
Right.
or
Are
not.
they actually doing this? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So it really depends. It depends on what the activity is and the specific parcel itself, which is why that's what makes our index scores so unique. It's based on the individual parcel. This is not a gross average across Kern County, California. This is for
Right.
that specific parcel. How good or bad is this particular location?
Let's take it one step further, Craig. So you and I have this conversation, you're a yes, and you say, okay, bring me an offer on solar or bring me an offer on energy for my land, whatever it is. You guys give me a proposed value on that. Is that correct? Or do I need to work on my skill set to understand that value?
That's a really good question. What we recommend, now you can put an asking price on any type of lease resources you want. You can put an asking price on there. we typically recommend, if you're trying to get lease offers, is you just make an offer. So
Awesome.
in your listing
So I don't have
agreement,
to
you
be a
don't,
specialist in this. I just need to know
no,
we can hit go, and then we're going to consider our offers together.
100%. Right now, we do give estimates of what we think the appropriate or kind of fair market value of what offers should be coming in for the different resources. I would still say that the best guidance you can probably get, leverage that information to set an expectation. If somebody thinks they're going to be making $1 million an acre on a certain type of resource, you can set expectations there. And I think
Right.
that's really good to do up front, is just say, no, you're not going to be making $1 million an acre a year. You're probably going to be close to $5,000 an acre a year if we do this, so that they understand what's going to be coming in, and at least they're kind of level set. But as far as the listing itself, it's extraordinarily hard to get sites for these different resources.
Right.
Real estate agents and brokers, you guys are the catalyst. You hold the keys. It is 100% a sellers or landowners type market, because companies are spending millions and millions and millions of dollars trying to connect with the property owner, with the building owner, and then convincing them of their value add. And meanwhile, there's really nobody in the corner for that property owner, the building owner. So they're in the boxing ring by themselves. You're now bringing your client to the ring, and you're in the corner with them, and you're on a level playing field rather than fighting uphill.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it just gives me information. It gives me access. It gives me potential, gives my clients revenue, helps me risk reduce. And I mean, this is an unbeatable tool for the value you guys provide. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, I appreciate it. I think it's been, number one, I just appreciate you giving us some of your time. I know how busy you are. I know how valuable your time is. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your coaching perspective with us at the start of the call. For all of the real estate agents out there, the land professionals, the real estate residential folks, if this is your first introduction to Alicia, you're welcome, because I think that may be the most valuable thing you're getting out of the call. She is a phenomenal resource in the real estate world. I had the privilege of listening, and actually I presented in front of the Keller Williams group 2 years ago. Alicia was right after, blew everything that I had to say away. She's phenomenal. Take a look at some of the coaching stuff that she has out there. You can clearly see that she is a huge value add to either yourself as an individual agent, organization, large brokerages. She's your gal, right, Alicia?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very easy to access. If you're ever interested in a conversation around commercial real estate, support commercial real estate, I love to deal jockey. If you got a deal that you're like, I can't solve this thing, bring it to me. I love that game. Giselle, my assistant's on the call. If you'll just drop my contact information in the chat, you guys can text or email me anytime. And
Yeah.
Craig, I appreciate that we got to have this conversation today, because my brain is spinning around, we're in a shift as real estate agents right now, right? Which means it's a little bit harder to get deals put together. It's hard to get deals to the finish line. And so having another opportunity here where, one, I've got a reason to call owners and say, let's meet. I can provide value. I can provide information. That's awesome, because I'm going to get in better relationship with my database. The second thing that's really great that happens here is I can go find revenue. I can go find paychecks right now through hunting for the deals that this type of activity makes sense on, and going and approaching those owners to maybe go do some solar deals, maybe go do some EV charging, maybe you get into that media storage and battery storage media center places are just blowing up right now. I get at least 2 or 3 calls a week right now for people that are trying to figure out that component. You guys create some really cool opportunities for agents in a shift to evolve our businesses to be more than just a person who slings the sticks and the bricks, but we're also going to put together revenue streams for the owners that we're in service to.
That's right. There's some land and luxury deals, or land and luxury folks that a couple years ago just got introduced to these types of contacts, this type of data. And now that's an enormous part of what they do, is looking at every piece of property through all of the different types of sticks, taking a page out of Casey Mock's book, right? Look at all the sticks in the stack, and seeing that you don't want to miss what could be the best opportunity. If you got a disgusting looking 5-acre lot on the wrong side of the tracks, it's ugly and you can't do anything with it, that
I
might
bet you
be your most
can.
that might
Yeah.
be your most valuable piece of that might be your most valuable piece of real estate that you're going to touch this year. You've got to look through it at the right perspective.
Well, it helps me when I do list that ugly piece of real estate to go back to the buyers and say, hold on, here's the lens you actually should be looking at this deal through. And because it's ugly, I bet I can get you a deal on it where you're not going to have some of your competitors understanding what this really is.
Yep.
I would actually go look at all the stale listings in my market right now and put it through this lens and see what I could shake up value on that the listing agent didn't know how to tell the story.
That's right.
I can have a deal under contract this week. Let's go. Yeah.
There you go. Alicia, I got $10 million in a 1031. I need to put this money to work. I'm not going to live on it. I'm not going to run a business. I need a good investment property. Find me something where I don't have to pay for the value proposition, where the sellers don't know what they're selling.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, right now, many of the agents that I'm coaching, and I coach high earners, 600K and above, right? And so those agents, they are buyer rich and inventory poor. And so if I am buyer rich, and now I could say, okay, I'm going to go just kick the bricks of every listing that hasn't moved that we thought was interesting, but we didn't move forward on. I'm going to go back to every deal that we kind of got close but didn't perform. See what you could wake back up. My expectation as a coach for anyone on the call, you're welcome. I'm volunteering you. Go get a deal under contract this week using this tool. You can do it. You just have to think about where do you create the opportunity. Yeah.
Alicia, you're amazing, which is why we wanted you on the call. Thank you so much. Yeah, I look forward to the stuff we're going to be doing with Keller Williams. George, you're going to all receive emails here, a quick follow-up. You're going to get a recording of this. You're going to get Alicia's contact information. You're also going to get my contact information with that. You'll be receiving that from Jordan and Michaela. But we are out of time. Alicia, again, thank you so much. Thanks for everybody.
Likewise.
Yeah, absolutely. You all have a great rest of the day and a good rest of the week. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Bye.
Yeah, bye.